Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. In today's video we're going to do something a little bit different. So when GT7 first launched, I put it upon myself to go through and try and find as many Easter eggs as possible. Some of my earliest videos on this game before I even started doing commentary features a ton of these Easter eggs, and today I've compiled 10 of my absolute favourites in a little video for you guys, and we're going to go through each and every single one of them. If you do want to see more, be sure to let me know as we get into 10 Easter eggs and secrets hidden inside Gran Turismo 7. No particular order on these, but let's start off with one of the most recent ones, the King. So to get started with this latest Easter egg in Gran Turismo 7, you want to be heading to the weekly challenges, and you're actually going to enter the brand new special event for this week, which is the Plymouth Superbird 1 make. So go ahead and enter that race. Now you may notice around about the middle of the pack there's a bright blue Plymouth Superbird, and well, if you know your motorsport you will know this is a very obvious nod to Richard Petty, or the King. Whilst it's very much not an exact replica, things like the numbering has been swapped around, so instead of 43 it's number 34. However, it is very obvious to see that this is a nod to Richard Petty. Now in terms of the coat itself, as you can see, it's that very distinguished blue with the blue wheels as well, and here's the official one to just kind of put a little bit of a match to. So overall a pretty cool Easter egg. Let's move on next to Emmett Brown. So this Easter egg only happens in one very specific race in the game. So to get this one to trigger, you want to head over to the Americas, which is going to be here on the left hand side of the World Circuits. Then head into Willow Springs International Raceway. Now there is a bunch of events here, but there's one very specific event you're actually going to be keeping your eye out for, and it's one very early on in the game event. It's the American Sunday Cup 600. So once you've picked your car, you want to go ahead and enter. Now what you're looking for is keeping an eye on the actual name leaderboard on the left hand side. As you can see, running upwards in first place we have E. Brown. Now at first when you do jump into this event you might not think much of it. Typically when we do see the names on the left, a lot of them are World Series drivers and so on and so forth. However, once you do approach that very specific name and that specific car, you will notice that it's the DeLorean DMC. As you can see, very famously from Back to the Future. Mix that with the name E. Brown, it's very obvious what this is a nod to. A very cool Easter egg, one of the original ones that was ever found in the game when it first released. Absolutely awesome to see this one. As you can see, E. Brown very much standing for Emmett Brown, or the Doc, Professor, whatever you want to call him, from Back to the Future. Up next we have a Gran Turismo 1 reference. Now this one is going to be once again very specific and tied to very specific events in the game. What you're looking for is the American Clubman Cup 700 events. These events feature a very specific nod to a very specific car originating from all the way back in Gran Turismo 1, which is actually a real world replica. As you notice and go through the grid, take a look at this Chevrolet Corvette here. It's the C4 model, which was originally prevalent in Gran Turismo 1 in the form of the Grand Sport. The one here is a very obvious nod to the racing modified version, which was based on a real world race car. As you can see, it features a very distinct livery, very reminiscent. That big rear wing that was very prominent on the car. I just absolutely loved seeing this when I first jumped into this game and noticed that there was a racing modified Corvette C4. Obviously, unfortunately, it's not the Grand Sport model, but here it is from the old Gran Turismo games for reference. As you can see, featuring the big Chevrolet branding, that bright blue paint, that huge rear wing, and it was actually a nod to a real world race car from back in the mid 90s, the Morrison Corvette. The next Easter egg is going to be a very specific one on Special Stage Route X. It's the AN-225, the massive plane which was destroyed once the Ukraine-Russia war first started and began over 2 years ago. and funnily enough it is now immortalised in Gran Turismo 7. You may notice on Special Stage Route X when you come round to the second big long straight just after the big bank corner, zooming into photo mode, you'll notice right here. As you can see, it's just sat there. Still in all its original glory and absolutely intact. In terms of some other little cool things that I noticed, it does look like a few of the VGT cars are actually parked around the hangar area here. As we can see, what looks to be some Mercedes, also some of the Chaparral laser cars do seem to be sort of parked up as well under some of these covers. I just thought this was absolutely awesome and something that I'd actually never noticed on the other times that I'd viewed this plane. We also do seem to have some of the planes and jets that fly over at the start of some of the events as well. As you may notice, you'll see a bunch of jets fly over at some of the events, and these do seem to be those exact ones. Let's move on next to the monkey. A long running Easter egg in Gran Turismo series, this one you're going to head over to the Americas once again and go over to Trial Mountain. Now once you do end up loading yourself in, it doesn't really matter whether you do it in time trial or in the race or anything like that. You want to head out of the tunnel into this downhill section here. You then want to head right and you're keeping your eye out for a very specific tree. This one right here where the branch sort of sticks out just over the track. At that point you do want to stop, park up and then bring up photo mode. As you can see, once you do, you're heading right up to the top of the tree here and you're going to zoom it in, and you may notice our little friend once again returns in Gran Turismo 7. This one has been prominent way back all the way to I believe Gran Turismo 3 when it was first ever put in, and he's still there to this day. Moving on, next we have bears. Sticking with Trial Mountain for this one, you're going to head straight out of that big long tunnel and you may notice a couple of signs scattered around this section of the track. On closer inspection, you may notice that it will say Wildlife Crossing with some very weird pictures. No, it's not deers, it's bears. It does seem to be a mama bear and its cub. Now, if you do head back, there is a couple of locations that you can actually go ahead and find these bears. But the easiest one to go and find is just on the exit of the tunnel, right near the marshal's post. As you can see, zooming into photo mode, there's going to be a very wildlifey friend ready to greet you. As you can see, just up on the rocks there, we do have a bear right near that marshal's post. So yeah, I think someone's going to become a fairly quick snack soon enough. Sticking with Trial Mountain, and another long running Easter egg is Nessie. Yep, you heard that right, Nessie is in Gran Turismo 7. So where you want to head is the top of this section here, towards the end of Trial Mountain itself, just before it goes downhill. Where the tractor is, you want to line yourself up there and just sit and wait, and you may notice right in the distance that Nessie does appear out of the lake very briefly and then jumps back down. You may have to wait a while for this one to trigger. Originally it took me around about 20 minutes of waiting, however it does seem very random. Definitely the best place to see this Easter egg is at the top of the hill. As you may notice, there is a bit of a deep water sign there warning you about the actual lake itself. As you can see, zooming into photo mode, you do get a better look at Nessie here. She is fully detailed and modelled, and again, it is only a sort of blink and you'll miss it sort of Easter egg, but absolutely awesome to see. Next up, we're going to head over to Bathurst for a couple of Easter eggs, and the first one is going to be cats versus dogs. So to find this Easter egg, you want to head over to Asia and Oceania. So once you go over there, you want to head over to Mount Panorama in Australia, or Bathurst as most of us may know it. Now again, you can load up whether it's a race or a time trial, it doesn't really matter. Now when you do spawn in, if you're doing the time trial way, it will actually put you right where this Easter egg is. Once you get to the final corner of the track, you actually want to head right instead of left. You may notice all of the pedigree sponsorship around the track featuring this very beautiful little doggy. However, if you do go up a little bit closer towards the barrier, you may notice that there's a cat very much on alert, steering between the barriers, looking up at the sponsorship here. And I did find this very funny that we're for puppy dogs and the cat is just there absolutely steering this one out. As you can see, much easier to see in photo mode, just heading around. You can see the cat's looking between the gap in the barrier, looking up at the doggo sponsorship. So sticking with Mount Panorama or Bathurst once again, we're going to talk about the museum. This is going to be in the exact same location where we went to go ahead and see the cat. However, we're going to look towards the right hand side of this. You may notice that the National Racing Motor Museum is going to be over on your right hand side. So once again, when we saw the cat, we're going to pan the camera over to the opposite side and we have the National Motor Museum. You may notice in the window there's a very specific car just sat there in low res, unfortunately, due to the whole sort of camera issue and stuff like that. So, as we can notice, this is perhaps one of the legendary cars that ran at Bathurst. The closest one I could find was this Nissan Bluebird, obviously with the same colour scheme, paint scheme and numbering by the look of it. Very difficult to tell with that one. Let's move on next to UFO number 1. Yes, there's more than one in the game, but I'm only going to showcase the original for this one. Once again, sticking with Mount Panorama or Bathurst, you want to head upwards towards the mountain, and once you get towards the peak of it, you're going to be looking for a very specific spot. Once you're right towards the peak, you're looking for a dip in the road just there where it says Armour All sponsorship all over the side of the barriers. At this point, you're going to sit and wait, and then after a while, you may notice that a UFO will appear and abduct a cow. Again, one of the very awesome day 1 Easter eggs in this game, and I'll probably show you UFO number 2 a little later on down the line if this video does well. So let's move on to the final Easter egg of this video. Once again, staying with Mount Panorama, it's going to be the Kangeroos. Now there's actually a couple of locations that you can find them, mainly towards the end part of the track. The first one's actually going to be off of the straight. There is a kangaroo jumping around that seems to do an infinite number of laps. He just never ever stops. However, the main and easiest location to actually find a family of kangaroos is going to be right towards the end of the straight, just before it begins to curve around, right next to a tree. So once you've headed a little bit further down, you're looking for this tree that sort of sits out on its own on the left hand side. Zooming into photo mode will give you a very clear look at a family of kangaroos. They're all there, they're all sat around, and well, they do never move from this spot, unlike our other friend who will be rolling around forever. So anyway, massive thank you to all of my channel members for your support between uploads, and a massive thank you to you guys watching at home. If you do want to see more of this type of content, I do absolutely love diving in for secrets and Easter eggs, and I can show you as many as you want from every different iteration of the Gran Turismo series. So let me know, and if this video does do well, I will roll out a part 2 and a full compilation video a little further down the line. Anyway, have a fantastic day. Take care, guys. Peace.